Welcome back to my channel. It is Candace with the K, where I normally talk books, beauty, and kicks. Today I'm giving my review of a book that I think you are really going to enjoy because I love it. And so if you are interested in hearing my review of Do You Take This Man by Denise Williams, please keep watching. I would compare this book to a Jasmine Guillory, very rom-com, very cute, very easy, simple read. So basically in this book, it is about a part-time officiant, full-time lawyer who ends up falling in love with her co-wedding planner. It starts in your traditional rom-com fashion where they are enemies at first because they bump into each other and then they turn into lovers. If that's your jam, if that's what you're into, because I love rom-coms, then you're really gonna like this one. From this point forth, I'm gonna give my spoilers. So if you are not interested in hearing the spoilers, this is your time to check out. But always check back in, hit that subscribe button, and follow Candace with the K Reads so that you can stay in the loop. Period. In this book, we have RJ, who is your go-getter, works very hard. She's a full-time lawyer at a very prominent divorce or a prominent firm where they specialize in divorce, but she just happened to be officiating a wedding for her friend, and in doing so she ended up on the fly officiating a wedding that went viral. And in its virality, if that's a word, it caused her to start booking more weddings. So think of how convoluted it is to be a wedding officiant but also a divorce lawyer. Like, they kind of go hand in hand, but it's kind of like, girl, what are you doing? But nonetheless, she ends up helping out Penny, who owns a wedding business. Penny hires her cousin Lear to kind of manage the business and be an assisted hand after he goes through some of his own issues, which we'll talk about. And so as RJ is walking into the venue, she bumps into Lear because she's just got so much going on, right? She's thinking about everything. She bumps into Lear and they kind of get into it because she's that strong woman who's like, you know, kind of bucking up. If somebody bumps into you, I get it. And so his reaction was to kind of tell her, like, you need to smile more and kind of buck back. So that's kind of the footing they start on. And because they start on that bad foot, it kind of is like a shoe-in of like, I hate that guy, I don't like him, once they realize that they need to work together. And then RJ starts to have a little change of heart. But Lear, men are so stupid. Anyway, he's attracted to her body, her physical appearance. But then, of course, when you get to know someone, you start to enjoy the other things about them as well. I think it's a very simple read. It is a great book to just dive into, especially after reading something very heavy. I just finished, prior to finishing this book, a very heavy book, and I needed something to just take my mind off of it. It's not to say that the content is frivolous, because the content is actually really great. So as someone who, I am very much a workaholic, kinda. Like, I enjoy working, I enjoy being busy, but it also makes me put my relationships and things on the back burner. And it causes me to be very guarded because I don't want to be vulnerable and get played. So in the same sense as RJ, where she thought she was in this relationship that was going to be the long haul, she ends up seeing him get engaged to a woman where he is saying, like, he's just felt so free and so this. And so seeing RJ go through that with Case and how he really just tried to play her, but the rigidity that we sometimes get as women, I get it as well. He didn't have to blast her like that, but I get that. I also like the complexity of Lear's character. So throughout the book, we realize Lear has returned to North Carolina, South Carolina, one of the Carolinas, and we don't really know why, but he just up and moved out of California and went back to Carolinas. And slowly but surely we're realizing it has to do with a woman. So we're hearing that, you know, Sarah did him wrong. That volatile relationship, toxic relationship he had to get away from. At this point, RJ and Lear are in their hookup whatever you want to call that, because I don't want to call it a relationship, but they're just in their hookup phase. And so they're trying their hardest to keep emotions out of it. I think it's impossible to not have emotions in a constant hookup situation. We're not talking about like a one night stand, see you every few months. They're hooking up on a regular. So I think automatically and naturally the feelings are going to come. They're going to rise, because that is what happens when you're kicking it with somebody on a regular. But at this point, they're trying to keep their emotions out of it. And it's the turning point of which they notice, I like you, I want to be with you. And so they kind of are peeling back the layers of it all. It was interesting that it took RJ kind of, okay, so back it up. So RJ was sitting with a bride who wanted to do this very sentimental moment with her husband at their wedding. And RJ told the bride, it's okay to lie. It's just a little white lie. It's enough just to make the event go off, without a hitch. It was basically the bride wanted to have a quarter to share that sentimental moment with her and her husband. But RJ told the bride to lie. And for Lear, that was a trigger for him, because he was in a situation where his last girlfriend lied, but big lie. So she was pregnant, cheated on him, and the baby that he ended up finding out, the baby wasn't his when the baby came out. So big lie. But that trigger of lying kind of derailed their relationship. And their blowout was like, kind of, even reading it, I don't know if the Candace standing here today would have been woman enough to take the words and you could just feel the vitriol oozing off the page of like, that man was mad. And if that man would have talked to me like that, that man's face would have been touching the concrete. I think it is really great how the author really described and expressed that vulnerability. It's hard to be vulnerable with anybody, especially somebody that you try to condition yourself to not have feelings and emotions for. And here you are in situations, especially because you're in environments where it is like oozing love. You're a wedding planner, you're a wedding officiant. You're constantly seeing people express and exchange words of love and affirmation and feelings. And then here you are trying to have these cut off feelings with somebody that you actually love. So I thought that the juxtaposition between, do you take this man because y'all working in these lovey-dovey environments and still trying to fight off the feeling of wanting to be with somebody. I will say the spice is spicing in this book. I love a good spicy scene. And so it gave me just enough to where I was like, okay, but it wasn't over dramatic. It wasn't too spicy, but it was just enough spicy. It was some moments where I was like, Lear sounds like a fine man, if I might say so myself. I also appreciated that the author gave us another added layer of needing to pull back to understand RJ. So we have RJ, whose real name is Ruth, but then there's Ruthie, who you only open up Ruthie to certain people. And I loved that aspect of this book because, yeah, I live this world by going by my real name because it is my brand. It is my moniker. And sometimes I hate that because I don't want people to be too comfortable in knowing Candace. And I wish I would have come up with some type of overarching thing to where you could be like, oh, that's the girl with the braids, opposed to being like, oh, that's Candace. Because I think that comfortability that comes from knowing your name is a lot. As somebody who proudly wears her name on her earrings every day, it's stupid that I feel this way, but it's the truth. But I love that the author did that because when they got into that argument and he was like, Ruthie, back it up. my name is RJ to you. And it's a good way to place that boundary and like keep people on the outside. Another little small literary thing that you'll notice in the book is that there are a lot of same-sex couples and same-sex marriages. And I think that is actually beautiful because it wasn't as if the book was pushing homosexuality down your face. But we often know the trials and the tribulations that same-sex couples had to go through in order to even get married. And then even with Penny, the wedding planner owner, she was, expecting with her wife. So it was nice to see those underlying layers of exposing what it's like for the LGBTQIA community, and especially when it comes to love and marriage. So I thought that was nice little added touch that was included in this book. Part of the story that I didn't too much care for, but it makes sense, was the fact that RJ's boss continued to tell her that she could not do officiating anymore, and that is, it's messy, or like was really trying to push her to not do it. On the one hand, I understand, because in the book, as you read, her being an officiant kind of blows up the spot on one of their major cases. But at the same time, this is a 9 to 5 for me, which should be. I know they're lawyers, and lawyers don't move in such rigid time schedules, but what I do outside of work should not have any influence on what what I'm doing here. Of course, her outside of work activities did blow up the spot, but I felt like the boss was trying to just sway her completely before it even blew up the spot. We live in an economy where you need a side hustle. I wish that wasn't the case. I wish I could live comfortably off of a single salary, but I can't. I need side hustles. I need additional income. And so officiating weddings, get your coin, and don't be a hater. Let her get her money up, okay? I truly loved Lear's character because he just seemed very much like a stand-up guy. He was trying to protect her when the douche photographer kind of tried to play RJ. And as a Black woman, many people take our aggressiveness as bitchiness, or even us standing up for ourselves as being a bitch. And although, like she says, I don't need you to fight my battles, I appreciated that he at least said something, because oftentimes men are so complicit in the things that happen to women that they will sit back and let that man ring off insult after insult after insult without ever saying anything. And so I think that was so imperative that he stood up for her. I think he genuinely showed compassion and care from the beginning. Although their initial interaction, they were bumping heads, he still was a compassionate guy. And he never did anything alarming, so to speak. Even when, women in the bridal parties were trying to push up on him, he still did the right thing. But he was on his own journey of self-love and healing himself. I loved that whole kind of like monologue of like, you just need to keep swimming. You'll eventually get back to the surface. Like, I just thought that was so beautiful. And yeah, that was great. So I could go on and on and on about this book because I really did like it. Shout out to Denise Williams. You got one, girl. This was a great one. I appreciated it. I would love to see a sequel. I would probably pick up other work by this author because it just falls right in line with my love. Okay, I love reading rom-coms because they're just so sappy, but like this one wasn't corny, it wasn't whack, it wasn't a unimaginable scenario, so it seemed like it had some realism to it. Hopefully my Lear is out in the world somewhere waiting on me to bump into him so we could get into an argument and then fall in love. But I hope that you have hit that subscribe button. I hope that you've come back. Please tell me what you're reading down in the comments. Tell me if you've read this one. I have this book linked in the description box so that you could get it yourself. And I will be sure to see you in my next video. Peace.